In this video, we take a look at a modern way to browse the NPM package registry on the web called Npmx and find out why this is relevant for you as a web developer and how this is related to Vue and Next. Here we go. When we look for new packages, then usually we check out either GitHub for the source code or eventually go to npm. So we look for packages like Next, Vue, or probably more of the less well-known packages. But even there, you might be familiar with this very typical design of NPM that hasn't changed for a while. And also feature-wise, not much happened. We see a lot. We see like the version, the downloads, etc. We can take a look, for example, what the Next bot that's publishing Next Regular here does besides that. But honestly, the DX here, like it works, it's fine. It doesn't have a dark mode, so sorry for that at the moment. We can browse the code, right? We can do a few things. We see dependencies to some degree, right? Dependence versions. So we have quite a bunch of information. Same with downloads. But honestly, besides these few buttons here that have been added recently to link to different third-party sites like Bundlephobia for the bundle size, security as a partnership with Socket, dependency with npm graph.js, or, well, the package help for Snyk, not much has happened here. And honestly, this feels like the centerpiece of the JavaScript universe, right? Where everybody says that node modules are bigger than black holes, which is not necessarily wrong, deserves a bit more care and a modern vibe. But what if I tell you that this is the case already? That you can do that? Well, the only thing you have to do is go to your address bar and instead of npm.js, you write xnpmjs.com and push enter, and then you go to npmx.dev. This is a fully new project and it is special for various reasons. First of all, it has dark mode. So welcome back, everybody. But this is not the main point, right? We see that the design is kind of minimal, but still quite sleek and elegant. But once again, there's more than that. So let's just go to the start page here and we'll have a look. First of all, this whole thing is launching officially today. It's been out for a bit. You could have tried already for the last couple of weeks, but today is the official launch of the alpha. So congrats to everyone, to the team, to the contributors, and hopefully also to the web ecosystem. All means in terms of launching, don't forget to check out the announcement post. It's linked below in the video and all the other community stories that this video is also a part of. But now back to NPMx itself. One specialty is this lovely thing here. This link goes to a commit. Obviously, we see it's a commit hash, but that means that NPMx itself is open source. So here we indeed have a repository and the whole thing is available. So everybody can contribute and can be part of making the developer experience for finding, browsing packages, comparing packages, and way more enjoyable. And surprise, it is built with Next.js and with Vue new CSS, and a bunch of other cool tools, Vite under the hood, Oxlint and Oxformat for linting and formatting, etc., etc. So we'll have a look in the code in a bit, but first, let's go back to the actual page and have a look at some features. The first thing we can start with is just picking one here. Let's say we'll pick solid, and we see straight away here, as before, we have all the important information. The GitHub repository, stars, you have the number of forks, home pages, and so on. So on. We see 0 vulnerabilities. It was published on January 23rd, the last version at least. We see different versions that are going on based on the tags. Also have the option to check others. And we have a button here to try out playgrounds. So in this case, there are multiple available for solid, but you can just get started very easily. So clicking here will start the solid playground itself, and we can just play around with that framework. And of course, the same applies to other packages. So if you go for Next, for example, and keep in mind how fast the search is here, we'll also have straight away the next.new page. So all these playgrounds are part of it. So people can just get started, which is a lovely thing. And you don't have to jump through hoops like, okay, I have to find the things in the README and take a look. Talking about that, the README is of course also embedded here. You can copy this markdown if it's helpful for you or for your agent. So you can do that. You have a table of content. If you say like, okay, I want to figure out the local development guide, we can jump through that if that's provided through the package README, and we're good to go. We also have some provenance info for the trusted publishing, so that's great. We have compatibility to see which node versions are necessary, for example. And if we want to take a look at the code, we can just push the code button. Same for the docs here, by the way. But we can also just use a keyboard shortcut, dot in this case, and we can jump through it and take a look. Of course, this is not the GitHub source code, but this is the published npm package source code. So this might be different than what you see in the repository, which makes a lot of sense given this is what actually is on npm. But you see it's all nicely formatted, highlighted. You can copy files, scroll to top. You can take a look at the raw one from a CDN, and you have a lot of functionalities there. And it's super fast. It's highlighted, so you have a breeze taking a look at the code. And you can even switch through versions here to say like, okay, I just want to switch around, see what has changed here. And this is extremely, extremely lovely. Another feature, which is a little twist here, is that you can actually like packages. And to do this, you have to connect with your Atmosphere account. So if you're on Blue Sky, that's your account there. Otherwise, you can easily create one. If you're entangled, same idea, and so on. So you even have a little bit of social aspects on this page and can show your love for packages if you just like them here. That's, of course, fully free of charge. If you want to show more love, you can also sponsor them if that's possible for you. Of course, there are no strings attached. Another thing I really enjoy is just having these lovely weekly downloads here and take a look at the chart itself. See, of course, the classic Christmas drop. Obviously, we can change it to say, hey, let's have a monthly view here. Some estimations might not be exactly correct. I wouldn't mind that, but probably won't happen given that March just started. So the data there is a bit inaccurate because it's an estimation, of course. And we can also take a look at, okay, the likes. Well, there daily makes more sense. That like at the beginning, quite a few people liked it. Then like, few adding up. So if you're around, then make sure to give that a like too. And even we can see the contributors. So how many people contributed. And if you want these lovely charts, you can even do more. So we can push the C button and we can go all the way to compare packages. So we start with Nuxt here because we came from the Nuxt page. And then we can add Astro, for example, and compare them for various reasons. Install size, dependencies, downloads, also the likes that were just mentioned, when they're published, etc., etc. And we have, once again, beautiful charts. So this is a key point where I think you don't have to leave Npmx to get nice charts. You can export them as any kind of your favorite format here. You can annotate stuff. Lovely, great library behind it as well. And once again, this is all pulled from npm and open source. So a lot of amazing functionalities here, and there is way more to come. So it is also, of course, just the beginning. It means when you now take a look at packages, you probably should think about using npmx there. There's also another interesting feature. So let's say stringify object, for example, is a package, right? And if we take a look at that, we see here significant size and dependency increase since version 5. So install size increased by 3000%. It's, yeah, almost half a megabit larger and plus 12 more dependencies. This data is also being sourced for you, warning you if, for example, a dependency changed drastically. And actually the same idea if you say, I don't know, let's look for a body parser as node middleware, then you have this hint to say, okay, you might not need this dependency. There are alternatives, and this will link to the E18E replacement docs here, where a list of replacements is shown, what you needed and whatnot. So there's also a collaboration on that end, and there are many, many more. As I mentioned before, the whole project is fully open source and contributors are more than welcome. So please go ahead, take a look. If there's anything you want to contribute, get started in open source, this is a great way. Now you might wonder who is behind the project. So we can take a look at the about page to see not only what Npmx is, what Npmx is not, because, well, it's not a package manager, it's also not a registry, so no package hosting and no package managing, viewing, browsing, etc. Sponsors, also happy to see that Void Zero is sponsoring along with Vercel, Volt, Netlify, so that's great news. And of course, all the open source partners, as in contributors, frameworks, libraries used, that's great. And if you take a look at the team, you might see some familiar faces. Daniel Rowe, of course, involved, came up with the idea. Patak, who is back in open source, right? Previously leading the Vite core team and now being back as open source adventurer. It's amazing that he's back and to have him back in the community, honestly. And many, many more people. User Quinn, you might know from the Nuxt ecosystem. Graph Heroes maintaining the data UI, Wojciech, and once again, then a lot of people from different parts of the ecosystem. So this is the beauty of this project, honestly. It's not like, oh yeah, the Vue and Nuxt community got together and did it again. No, it is people from different backgrounds. It is people with like different framework expertise and preferences coming all together and being maintainers, helping out. And the list of contributors, given that the alpha just launched, right? So this was all previously happening, is still quite long. So we're almost at 200 contributors. And well, if your picture is not in here and you want it to be here, you know what to do. You should contribute. And now let's have a brief look over the code. I think we can go into the details in a different video maybe. If you're interested in that, let me know below. Just want to see what is actually happening here in this Nuxt project, because once again, this is where we feel home here, right, on that channel. So the Nuxt config TS is always a good start. Let me zoom in a bit for you so we'll see a bit more here. And first thing, a lot of different modules are used. I mean, Unit CSS, as said before, the HTML validator is a great module to figure out if you have invalid HTML whenever you do an SSR request. Can highly recommend it. Nuxt scripts, Nuxt A11Y, which we definitely should talk about in another video because it's also new to help you with accessibility. Nuxt OG image for the OG image generation test utils. Vite PWA/Nuxt to have the whole thing available as PWA. View use, don't have to talk much about it, right? Nuxt ITN, and also a storybook integration. Interestingly, not with the storybook module, but hopefully this will change soon, fingers crossed. Instead, with a different integration, plus Nuxt fonts and Nuxt color mode that are not enabled when storybook is used, I guess for comfort reasons here. Then we have a great use of the environment-aware Nuxt config options here. So if the environment is test, then set debug hydration to true. So you catch all these hydration errors with more details. That's a good one. If you don't know what exactly that means and are interested, link to the video in the description. We have the color mode, of course, setting up there. Some CSS to get started, also from View Data UI, which is all about the charts. And then the runtime config with session password, which you should definitely set in your application. All around image proxies, upstash for the Redis, the Algolia NPM search index, which is maintained by Algolia and free available, gives you that speedy search actually. We have dev server set up for the @proto or authentication, and a few settings for your OG tags, the language, etc. We skip the search tag here because it's a custom element from Algolia, I would assume. Then we give more information about the site itself for Nuxt OG image as well. Have scroll behavior smooth enabled. And then we have route rules for caching to set it up. Everything API-wise is cached for 60 seconds via ISR. For the registry badges, because Npmx can also do badges, that's another thing. We have 1 hour, and we also have queries that are taking into consideration here. We have an image proxy that's set up the same way, downloads to cached numbers, and many, many more. We can skip through most of these. Here we go for analytics as well. And then we have a lot of experimental stuff. We have entry import map disabled. This is probably just for compat reasons, so all the browsers work well with that too. TypeScript plugin is enabled. You should definitely check that out, and I should also make a video about that, which is a new option with a new TypeScript integration for Nuxt. The Vite environment API is enabled if Storybook is not used. This is also a new refactor that could be taken a look at, and of course type pages via view router. Very important there too. Then the compat data set, we set some things in Nitro to make it all bundle very nicely. And then we have the ES build to target the modern ES 2024 standard. We have some configs here for rollup and eventually some storage parts here that they also work nicely in dev mode. And the config is getting a bit longer. We still have a few module options, like which providers to enable for fonts and which to set. HTML validator, make sure when it's not in CI or when the provider is not Vercel, and process and validate HTML is definitely set. Some rules that are disabled, that's all right. Then OG image is also disabled when Storybook is on, setting this up to generate them very nicely. That's also, I think, why the Nuxt font setting in here also have Geist and Geist Mono in here, because they are used for the OG image. PWA settings, getting over that. TypeScript to set up some options here, include some more things, the shared TS config, no TS config and more, and some optimized apps list for Vite. So you don't have this refresh and you can take a look at this directly. That should also be way easier with Vite 8. So having a look there later on. ITN, some imports to be auto imported. Here we have this deep composables auto import, which is totally fine, but optional. And eventually an ISR config helper here. I think that's an amazing start. Now we can technically take a look at more files, but this might be more interesting for another video. First things first is check out Npmx, check out the launch announcement. Congrats to everyone. And we'll see you on NPMX, the Discord, for example. You should definitely check out. It's a lovely place with a lot of amazing people. Take a look at the other stories from the launch of WebRing, a lot of blog posts, contributor experiences, companies writing about that, why they sponsor and help out. And last but not least, check out the other videos on the channel, links in the description. And other than that, see you soon and happy hacking.